I guess the first thing was to increase my savings rate. So I started saving 50 to 75% of my check. So anytime I got a raise, I acted like this was the first year I ever got paid. I stayed on that salary and I put everything away, That was part of the preparation. Then I said, you know what? How can I replace my income? And how can I have something that can provide, like, it will be an asset to the point that it doesn't require me to work in order to have it. So that's when I went into real estate and I looked at multifamilies and I said, you know what? If I can afford this multifamily by myself, that's fine. But if I can have the rent pay for this building and also provide me a place to live, even better. So that's what I went looking at the math and trying to do when I looked at different properties. That helped supercharge my ability to retire early. And at the same time, I started putting money in my 401k. I funneled what I could up into the match and I made sure that all these buckets were filled before I said, okay, now I have this discretionary spending. So this was just all in preparation and saying, you know what? I'd rather make these sacrifices now so I don't have to make them later. And then I can also obtain the life I want a little quicker than would normally happen.
Yeah, I would add only two things to what Nadia said. Not only up your savings rate, but make sure your expenses are low.
Yeah.
You cannot let lifestyle creep happen to you. So I know both of us, we were in very, in terms of versus our pay, the rent we were paying before buying our properties was very low. And we stayed in those apartments for a very long time before. So we kept our rent low. So keep your expenses as low as possible. We didn't buy any new cars, things like that. And then when we first decided that we might be getting out of the workforce, we took a leave of absence. And most people that have a career, I think it's an option for anybody to take a leave of absence. It might be 3 months or either shorter or longer, but that gave us the time to realize, is this something that's possible or is this too scary? We don't like it and let's jump back in. So I would suggest definitely before going full force to try to take a leave of absence.
No, that's well said. I also read that you guys both did like different things, I'm planning for a jog and things like that. So why was it important for you guys to see whether this is a lifestyle that you guys wanted? Because, in this day and age, everybody's pushing and getting retired early, becoming an entrepreneur, be your own boss. But why was it important for you guys to actually test the water and see if this was actually for you guys?
It's a big decision. You're going against what everybody is telling you should do, right? You go to a good school, you get a good job, you work, and then you retire. It's like, well, maybe I don't want to do that. So there's really no, like when we did it, there was no clear blueprint on how to do it. We just did it. And then we found oh, there's other people who do this. If I'd have known about that a lot longer before, I would have done it a lot quicker. But we were just working with each other, trying to figure this out. And we're okay, well, we're going to do this. So, and if we fail, then we can always go back in if we need to, but I'm going to try to make this plan work.
Yeah, and I would say too, no one was pushing us out the door. We were making good money. We were at jobs that were, highly competitive. So it was easy for someone to say, oh, I'll take your spot as soon as you get out of here. So to say, I'm going to give that up where a lot of our identity was attached to it too, it's not easy, So you're giving up that somewhat stability of that paycheck along with that position to try an unknown. And the first week, you might be getting heart palpitations. This is, you're like, what did I just do? So I think it's easier to say, okay, let me try this out. And there's always a middle ground. I'm pretty much for it's not an either or all the time. It's not always black and white. And a lot of people can benefit from knowing that there's not always a black and white. There's a lot of gray that you can do.
Nah, that's well said. And before I go to my next question, I want to ask, what were some challenges that, you guys saw when you guys took that absence of leave that could possibly happen if you go full time into quitting your job? What were some challenges that you guys had to address in order to take that final step to quit your job?
I mean, the first thing I would say is healthcare. With a family, especially even just for myself, the first thing they might offer you is COBRA, but it's not cheap. And also, if you're making good money and you start at the beginning of the year and decide to quit, you have to go that whole year with the government understanding this is your income. So whatever healthcare you're getting is going to be based on that previous year's income. So you have to have a gap year before you qualify for like Obamacare or some other healthcare. And living in a high cost city like New York, healthcare was the biggest thing, the biggest challenge. And also that's one of the reasons why my husband, who he enjoys working, but he also works because the amount of healthcare we were paying. At one point where he was, at one point he had his absence and we were paying $2,000 a month on healthcare. And that's without going to see any doctors.
That was just to have it in case.
Just to have it in case. So that's a lot of money, okay? So healthcare would be the thing I would say was the biggest challenge.